We are officially being recorded. Good morning, everybody. And I think this is our third session of Cafe 42. I'll open the floor. We'll get right into it. Did you ladies have any particular questions or issues that we would like to discuss or go over? Okay. Jamie, do you have any questions? Good. I'm hoping that this is helping you guys. There have been some. They are working. Okay, so Jamie, your question was if there's a way to archive members' past projects without deleting them so that there's still a record of how many years they have taken the project. As it is in the system right now, and I can kind of go through and show you, it's okay. If they're still showing on the reports for this year, they shouldn't be, especially if they're not enrolled. And in the last update, I saw they actually have to activate the project, but let me take a look and let's log into Abby's. Log into Abby Boop's record here. That's a good question, Jamie. So let's see what we can find out here. And I think you might be right. If they are not in the project, but it may be still listing on their list and they're not enrolled in it, we're in a new 4-H year, so you should be okay to delete those. And I think what is listed does show on the list. So are the members, do you have a member that I could log in and look just right offhand? Okay. What project area are you? Would that help as a reminder as far as who should be in there or not? FCS. Okay. And Jamie, what county are you in? Gooding. Okay. Well, let's take a look. So as far as an FCS project, would you have anybody like in clothing as an example? Although there's so many clothing projects that might be a little difficult, or a foods project. Oh, Emily Ferguson, okay. All right, so she is active. Okay. So one of the things we have asked for is for them to kind of have what they've got going on with animals and livestock. Let me go back to Abby's record. And part of that is so where they actually have the 1314 list and then they reactivate, so they actually have to select the animal. So I'm hoping that they can make that change. I don't have a timeline on that, but I will put that into James again to see if we can get that. Is this kind of what you had in mind, Jamie and Diana? Would it something like this help? You could have like 13, 14 project list, and then they actually edit what they have. And then and I think if it goes the same way in the programming, then this list would still say, that would give you that archival. You can pull previous year's records, so then you would have that as kind of a backup. But let's go back into Emily's record here. Okay, so she is taking, or she has taken Let's Begin Cooking, but has not deleted it. Okay. So she is not in that project this year. Is that correct? Okay. You go in for the search record and click on their individual name and the projects, and it only shows this year, but when you do a report, yes. Yeah, and I think you're right. If they are not in these projects, then they do need to delete that. So that would be a housekeeping piece that you guys would probably definitely want to do before you get to fair as you're building your check-in records. So let's go ahead and we're going to delete the Let's Begin Cooking. And then it's time for dinner. Is she in any of these other projects under construction? And that's kind of confusing because she's got level 1 and level 2, then the recycled quilting, crochet, and then another quilting project. The quilting and crochet are correct. So delete clothing under construction level 1. Okay. And then now, is she in the recycled quilting too, or is she in the handwork from Heritage, or both? Okay. So then what you're seeing, or what you should be seeing on her record, under construction clothing 1, quilted, the recycled quilting, crochet, it's time for dinner, and then her handwork from her Heritage. So that would put her in 5 projects. Okay. So Diana, so that you're up to speed on this. So if you have members showing up on project lists that they're not in, with having that project list carry over from year to year, that does add kind of a housekeeping piece. And I will put in a request with James to do something very similar to what we have as the animals records. And let me do a little share, so then that way you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Okay. Let me make sure I got the right screen. Okay. All right, so on Abby's record, one of the things that I've noticed that they've made as far as an update on the animals records, just as an example, is they list out the 1314 animal list, and I think if they did something very similar with the projects, then this will help eliminate some of that confusion that they need to kind of go through the projects that are listed when they re-enroll. And then if they keep them in this list, that's fine. That's not going to impact, but they do need to reactivate, if you will. And that will also kind of keep a running log of what they were participating in. And if you need older information, then you could pull that out of the system. Does that look like, and I don't mean to repeat, but does that look like something that would be very helpful? Okay, awesome. People need that visual support. So I think that that would go a long way. So project list. And did you guys have anything else? Because I do have something that I would like to brainstorm with you guys on. I wish there were more people on the call, but I'd be interested to get your feedback on something. Okay. Diana, did you have anything? So one of my questions that I have for you guys is what we can do to kind of help people with the use of the system, and kind of some ideas. I'm thinking about doing a survey to the volunteers. There's been some emails that I've had forwarded that people are frustrated with the system. They don't like to use it, and they're not really giving me any guidance as far as how I can make things easier. But I was wondering if this main login page is confusing, if this needs to be simplified, or if you've received any specific information on how we can do a better job so that the system is more perhaps welcoming, or if there's something perhaps that I'm missing in support materials. Have you had any feedback like that, or do you have any ideas? Unfortunately, with the waivers, that is a requirement from risk management to do the waivers every year. With the information that is in the system, it would be verifying your shirt sizes and a verification from that point. But as far as the waivers and the assent to the code of conduct, those are something that we have to collect every year, and they do look for the signature, but then it's also a time, there's a date captured when they virtually sign that, if that makes sense. So those documents, if you will, last through the 4-H year, and that is something that we have to redo every year. But as far as the initial, or once they do the initial record setup, if they go through that re-enrollment process, then at that point they're just verifying that their information is correct, and that whole process of re-enrolling is much less in terms of time than when they first do their enrollment. So unfortunately, we can't get away from that. Oh, the submit button to submit the enrollment. And that's it. That is an easy miss. They get down to the end and they don't hit continue, and although it takes them through all these screens, maybe make it prevalent, or perhaps change the color of the button. Okay. What about the initial login screen? Have you had any feedback on that? I know that I think what's happening is, I do think some people are trying to do their enrollment or access the system on their cell phone, and it is not quite designed like what Fair Entry is, where it adjusts to the type of component that you're using, be it a laptop, desktop, or tablet. And I can't imagine going through the enrollment process trying to use a cell phone, but I have tried accessing the system on my cell phone, and I'm wondering if I need to add verbiage to the front page that, you know, this is designed or for best use, maybe utilize it on a desktop or tablet or something along those lines. I have been able to get it work on my iPad pretty well because it's large enough where you can see it and navigate it. But for a cell phone, there's a lot of information. It is difficult. Some of the feedback that I've received is not intuitive. There's frustration that there's a lot of information. You know, I'm trying to make the process as painless as possible and providing tip sheets, but we can always try to do things a little bit better. Or, you know, I'm open to suggestions on how to maybe change the part or change that. That's a good suggestion, Jamie. What I can do is maybe perhaps change the verbiage or change the format of this upper piece and then move that up so they don't have to scroll down. That is pretty large. So that's a great suggestion. Diana, have you received any input as far as login or how to utilize the system? Okay. Have you had any complaints from volunteers as far as if they had a magic wand? Okay. All right. Thanks, Jamie. Perhaps move it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Move it up here to the right. Or I can get rid of some of the verbiage too. Yeah, the password piece is kind of a biggie. And I think people also forget what email address they use. And that really comes into play when we're working through the house cleaning components of duplicates and that type of thing. You know, and then from that standpoint, you know, we can either walk them through it, reset it, and we can merge records. So there are some things we can do on that end, but we can't do anything from our end per se as far as preventing that. That's it's a fairly common occurrence. I think we have resolved the Idaho County piece. I haven't heard any or seen any new accounts getting set into Idaho County, so that I think has been a user error issue and not a system issue. What Susie and I have done to resolve that, part of that is changing this initial login screen, but I have done in the options box, check the box where new families can't create their enrollment records in Idaho County, and so that has helped with people inadvertently selecting Idaho County. I think that they're seeing that as Idaho, and they're assuming that maybe they need to check the state again, although they've logged into the system for Idaho. And if they're trying to do that on their cell phone, it's very easy with the size of the font and getting that to move to scale so you can actually see that to where the wrong county could be selected. So that seems to be working at this point. If I were to build a webinar to ask users of for ideas or suggestions on what we could do to improve the accessibility or navigating the system, or things, if they had to get feedback as far as if there was a magic, you know, something that they could change in the system, what would that be? Do you think that that would be helpful information for you, or do you think people would not do it? As far as credit cards, we are looking at that. We have not had that conversation as a state team because of changes in staffing and trying to get the new positions filled, but that is on our list to discuss. With making a link to your county, when they submit their record or the information that they see, we might have an option in your county information to where they can do that. But when they go through their initial enrollment, that's the same information for everybody. So I don't know if that would work, Jamie, but we are still having that conversation as far as credit cards and kind of moving that direction as an option. Good, okay. Oh, a webinar, that's a great idea. Maybe if people want to engage that way, that would be great. What do you think, Diana? Do you think of your volunteers that you work with, would they be willing to submit, you know, input or provide feedback about 4-H Online if we were to do a survey or something along those lines? Okay, good. All right. Well, then that would be something to pursue. Some of the questions that I was thinking about asking would be, one of those is, if you had a magic wand, what would be a couple of things that you would want to change with the system? What would be helpful to make the system more easier to navigate, if there is that opportunity, and just provide them an opportunity just to provide feedback as a whole, you know, a general text area. Were there any specific questions that maybe you think I should ask? Okay. When you're working with your volunteers, there are some help sheets that I have posted. I actually have a family and volunteer help sheet page. So, you know, if your county has moved through allowing club leader and project leader login, there are help sheets for that. Paper copies of the forms. I do have a section about re-enrollment and then also new enrollment. But, you know, if there's information that we need to post for volunteers, please let me know. Okay, I think organizational leaders, how to run reports and manage their clubs. I could certainly do a webinar about that. We could do a session. That would be easy. Yeah, and I think that survey would help get some feedback from the users. I would also encourage counties to engage in that as well. And how you guys use the system is different. What you see definitely varies from what the families see. So And that also kind of varies. There is a variation on what project leaders see when they log in versus what organizational leaders see. So maybe by doing a webinar on some of those topics specifically and opening that up will provide an opportunity for them to kind of get some of that training and have a visual. And then, I think it always goes a long way with volunteers when they have a platform to voice opinions or share ideas. So that's certainly something I can move forward with. Try to get that set up, and perhaps. Okay, all right, so kind of a Zoom session with everybody so then they can see, and maybe we can kind of, once we get through summer, can kind of target that for setting that up for the fall. Or right now, I don't know what folks' schedules are, but could put out something to where we could do a couple different sessions. And if with them being recorded, then people can access that information at any time. Okay, all right, good. All right. Well, did you ladies have any other questions? Because if not, that was all I had for today. Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Jamie and Diana, for joining me. And I will definitely post this on our Cafe 42 page. So we are keeping a running list of the chat log and then also the sessions. So thank you, and look forward to next month's call or session. Have a great day.